The one thing I wanted to ask you about before, and this is playoff related, your thoughts on, as we record this, it would be the past 24 hours of NBA fandom. Someone spitting on Trae Young, a Knicks fan at Madison Square Garden. Someone pouring popcorn on Russell Westbrook as he's leaving with an injury. And then, of course, I'm sure you saw the report from Tim McMahon of ESPN about what was said to Ja Morant's family at the Jazz Grizzlies game. And it was racist. It was misogynistic. It was all too typical, not just for Utah, for so many fan bases. And then you have Danny Ainge saying no players he's never heard of anything racist being said to them in Boston. Again, this happens outside of Boston. It happens outside of Utah. The ignorance, whether deliberate or accidental, is off the charts there. Then you had Marcus Smart saying it happens all the time, and it's disturbing because we know they root for us, and it's hard to hear. It's hard to reconcile. This is gross. It's sickening. It's despicable. As I mentioned, it's also all too typical. It happens everywhere. No fan base is immune. There are fan bases that are worse than most. I would argue Boston and Utah are up there. They're also, I would say, look, Knicks fans, you don't hear about it happens. You're not going to hear about the racist comments as much, but they're brutal. And even a place like Philadelphia, you're chanting, was it fuck Russ or whatever it was, when he's leaving with an injury? Like, come on, he's leaving with an injury. And how do we not understand that this is a fucking game and there are lines you don't cross? And there's also, look, there's the morality human element here too, where if you're saying that, and I can't even bring myself to repeat it, what was said to Ja Morant's father or mother, I believe, like that's racism. It's just outright flagrant racism. And that's not sports. That's not prisoner of the moment. That is racism, ingrained, entrenched racism. And it honestly grosses me out. I'm enraged that it happens so often, so sweepingly, so comprehensively. And you know what? Because it's the playoffs, because now it's caught on video, that's why we're hearing about it. The fact that players probably don't talk about this more publicly, I'm sure it happens amongst themselves. I don't know how they don't do that. I don't know how they operate under these circumstances. I know they get paid a lot of money. And part of that, I guess, is to endure the criticism on social media. You're going to have fans booing you. Even Ja Morant's family said they were having back and forth with Jazz fans who, kudos to the Philly fans that singled out the guy that poured popcorn on Russ. There were the Jazz fans that singled out the racist piece of shit. Great. And I still would say you remove that. These players are still under an enormous amount of pressure. I don't care how much money they make. This isn't a matter of getting soft. To have to listen to that trash talk, I would never search my name on Twitter. Someone could tell me my article was wrong or point out a granular point that's incorrect or that they don't agree with, and I'd probably be in shambles. So there needs to be more of a human element here. The fans that are listening to this podcast, I'm assuming are not the problem. If you are part of the problem, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast, but it's really discouraging that all this stuff still goes on. And it's not, look, this will be the last thing I'll say before I throw it to you. This is not the pandemic and isolation at work. Maybe people are more unruly because they've been inside or not been to sporting events for so long. This was happening across the board forever. This has just been going on. It just crops up every once in a while where we hear more about it. I will say I don't remember a 24-hour period or so hearing as many stories as we've done right now. And it is disheartening, even though you knew it was going on already.
If I may inject just a little bit of levity here, I will have to say that was the longest question I've ever been asked.
That didn't include a question?
Well, you were like, I want your thoughts on this.
I'm sorry. I texted you.
No, it's just funny.
I texted you beforehand saying I was enraged. So that was me just unloading.
I second everything you had to say. I think the only thing I would add to it is that I'm thrilled that while all of this is going on, there is more of an acceptance of athletes speaking out about mental health. We've seen it for a couple of years now where guys like DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love and many others have opened up to the public about the struggles that they face in that area. We've seen the younger generation of up-and-coming NBA stars be more open with their feelings and sharing what they're thinking and what their thought process is about so many of these things. And it's fantastic to see, going to a different sport now, Naomi Osaka just talking about how press conferences are kind of an archaic institution. And sure, there's some merit to it, but it feels like you're beating a horse while it's down after a bad match. You deal with repetitive questions. You're forced to relive your worst moments over and over, and it's just not good for mental health for some people. And it's great to see the worldwide and sports wide embrace of that. It's not happening universally, but it is happening. And I think that that is at least beneficial because, as you said, all of this is despicable and it flies in the face of the very basic, bare minimum level of civility and decency as fellow human beings that we should ask from people who are attending a sporting event to be entertained by the people that they're berating. Like it's baffling that it happens, but at the same time I get it because we live in an uncivil world and the country is very polarized at the moment and has been for quite some time. And it's a shame. And I don't know what the solution is. I wish that NBA teams would just say we're permanently banning you rather than indefinitely banning you, which has
implies redemption, which there shouldn't be when you're an adult.
Connotation. Yeah. I don't know what you do to ensure that it doesn't happen again because it's going to, but stronger steps and stronger actions have to be taken. Like the players are ultimately human beings who are playing a game and getting paid a whole lot of money to play that game, but there is no amount of money that you can be paid. There's no amount of fame and recognition that you can achieve that should supersede basic human decency.
I can't add anything to that because it was perfect. And I think it was smart that you touched on the indefinitely stuff bothers me. The implication of redemption there. If you're asking whether I think a grown adult who's hurling racial slurs at Ja Morant's family in front of their child, I believe it said, should be canceled. Yes, correct. That's right.
I think by canceled, you mean have consequences for their behavior?
Concrete consequences, not indefinitely.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that one was phrased, so I don't want to misspeak on the Jazz one, but the Knicks one for sure said indefinitely. It should be permanently. There shouldn't be a chance for redemption here because there's, it wouldn't make it any better if it were a child or something, but these are adults making decisions. Like I don't know what the redemption here would be.